Good morning and welcome to Monos, featuring me, Monica Mo Justice. All right, I'm not gonna be here. I have to move the car. Hey, Boogie, we didn't hook up, and that's it. Today I returned back to work, so I got work things on my mind for the rest of the day, and yeah, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna recap where I've been this morning. Um, this morning I was listening to some developments around the K unit side of things, or what I consider the formerly K unit side of things, because I see a lot of stuff going in its own separate ways. And I was over in there. I was over in there checking some stuff out. And in the midst of the conversations, I do have to come to one fair conclusion about me being overwhelmed and upset lately, right? At some point in time, when you make friends, when you make friends with folks, you really expect there to be, and someone wrote this to me yesterday, loyalty. And I'm still trying to gather, what does that loyalty look like? And I think that I've come to a point where, in listening to other people's dispute, that loyalty is a little bit more profound. It's when you have a reasonable expectation that the person respects you to a certain degree, that you just become disappointed when you see them engage. Right. When you see them engage. And hi, Jennifer. And you're just like, wow. So I'm gonna say this for the 100th time when it comes down to this, to what specifically happened to me. I believe that we live in real worlds. And in the real world, we understand, if you have a dispute with someone, that you do reach out and speak to that person. You don't just have a back and forth through people, one person talking, another person talking. You don't do that. You go right to the horse's mouth and you have a conversation straight with that person, straight like that. And if you are really from the streets and not really from the YouTube streets, right? You may feel like that's the way to approach taking a real life way you would respond to something in your real life with people in the virtual world. And you would take it to them and say, yo, you got a problem with me, you confront them up front. That's when you're dealing with real folks. When you're dealing with computer generated people that have made their image, because in their real life they can't even flex like you in your real life, right? So they made up this virtual life that they live. They don't really understand what you would do in your real life. They can't relate. This is why they virtually live here. This is why they've made up these identities that they made up, and they live through these identities that they made up. So you can't expect something made up to ever address something real. And you can expect that something made up will make a mockery out of something real. And that's what my disappointment level has been, because I know that there are real people here who really would address something. The bottom line, there are real people here. And when the real people meet the virtual world and it doesn't add up, at least when real people come to me and they tell me the fuck shit they did to somebody in this virtual world, I give them real advice on how to make something right or how to make amends, what to do. Even if you know the outcome is going to be bad, I give the bad part of it too. I give the good side of it and I give the bad side of it. But I try to give the same advice that I would take for myself. Some people I say you just stay the fuck away from, all the way away from. And then some other people you gotta, you gotta fix what you could fix. But if you wrong somebody, you've got to take that wrong and make it right. And in this world, people don't like to be accountable for when they wrong somebody. They just want to continue to say, well, that person was wrong. Well, you would have got the same outcome. It doesn't matter if you get the same outcome. It matters what role you play in creating that outcome. So I'm often a big person here to say, if you don't like the character you played in my story, when I tell you what your character did, and you don't like the way I'm depicting your character, you have one of two things to do. You either change the way that character behaves or acknowledge that character, damn, that's a real fucked up character, Monica. I didn't even realize you saw me like that. Correct it. Make amends with it. That's how you make amends. It doesn't mean I'm going to see that character any differently, but at least the character that you play now has had an opportunity to address me and say, damn, I didn't know you felt that way. And yes, I did that because of this reason. Or I didn't mean to do it that way. And I didn't even understood that you took it that way. You have an opportunity to correct your character. The only other thing that comes out of correcting the character and the roles that people play is stepping back and saying to yourself, okay, now that we've overcome that and I've had my conversation with you, does it always pop up 2 months down the line, 3 months later, a year later? Do we still keep hashing the same story when we've already acknowledged how you saw me and I've had a chance to redress it? Is it something that you just continue to keep putting out there? And it really shouldn't. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of these discussions that happen out here. You'll hear someone say, I forgive a person for this, not forgive a person for that. And then you will see somebody poignantly go back and see that a truce has been made. And then they will air something else that was said during that time that the two people have just made a truce about. And it's ridiculous. And I see that everywhere and anywhere on here. I've seen people make up with people and written me and been like, I'm in good standing with this person. I'm like, okay, great. Then I come back 2 days later, I was sleeping and wake up and they at it again, right? And then it's like, I'm gonna stay this way because, and I'm saying to myself, damn, but y'all just made up and it was around that same period of time. So maybe during those makeup points, people should air out everything they said or did during that period of time so that when it comes up again, because the haters hate to see unity. When it comes up again, a person be like, oh, we already dealt with that. Either I was willing to live with that or I wasn't willing to live with it. And some people have red lines in the sand. And I cannot fault a person for having a red line in the sand. It's just some things, there's a level of disrespect that one is not going to accept. And I could live with that. I truly could live with that. And I understand it. When you just come to a point where you say, I'm not going to accept this person disrespecting me in this manner. And that's it. I ain't got no problem with that either. Um, what I'm gonna work hard on is I'm gonna let trolls live because they bring not really value added, but they bring a different opinion to the forefront, and I like to ingest the different opinions because they make me stronger, and I take them as critiques. I take them as critiques to help me build my platform better. But for the most part, I'm not really weighing into the nonsense that comes out of the other folks' mouths, and that's just where I stand. I honestly feel like I have moved away from K Street for the most part, from the K unit section, and I am embracing a new world. And in that new world, there are black supremacists, and I see I'm not going to um, there's going to be a lot of difference of opinion there just because I don't see things from the same perspective as they do. I'm not an all in, all out person where I'm just going to say I go for anything that one group does, period, end of story. You can't make me um, fold just because I am. I don't have that kind of pride. I like to see myself as someone who is reasonable and rational. And I will take a situation and evaluate it on a case by case basis and not group it in as any one stereotype. And I believe that at some point, I understand the hurt people of color have because it's the Black experience. I do understand the Black experience, but I don't understand it to the degree that I can't be reasonable and come to conclusions that if a Black person commits the same crime of a white person, that I want that Black person to get the same time that they divvied out for that white person. I see that injustice, and I'm going to continue to speak on it even when I fundamentally understand that the optics are horrible. But you're not, at least on my watch, or where I have ability to speak out, I'm not going to send a person to jail 25 years to life just because he's a Black man that committed a crime when the same crime was done by white folks and they got 2 years for the same exact thing with all the similarities of facts. That's when you need to be outraged. So I sat here yesterday and I said, what needs to change is the law needs to change. Everybody keeps arguing about the consequences of the law. That's wrong. That's disproportionate. You got to work on the law itself and make that work for you. That's why I said in the Tatiana Jefferson case, is that standard operating procedures? Because at some point in time, you have two officers who did the exact same thing with the exception of shooting her. One shot her, but the other officer engaged in all the same behavior as the first officer, was more senior to the officer that got arrested, and there's no consequence at this point. Where's the outrage on that? Two officers. I heard an interview because people send it back to me, and the attorney said it was a SWAT team style. Well, goddamn, doesn't SWAT involve more than two officers? So they went in on SWAT team tactics without even a SWAT team. This sounds very, very, very extremely negligent. Fuck negligent. Fuck that word. It's reckless. And to have somebody sit up there before you and give you that information and you not challenge it just because the person speaking the shit is of color, says, I say boo-hoo to you. Because if you can't stand up and you want to be the person that stands up to the white man, motherfuck you, stand up to the black man too. Stand up to injustice as you see it, as it hits you on the front door. Don't just decide to pick and choose when you're going to stand up for injustice. Fuck that. That's why she's blind. Because in her swagger of being blind as a bitch, being truly blind, not being half blind around here, but being truly blind, she ain't seeing shit but the facts. She's holding those scales to balance the bullshit. She is more powerful than men in this situation. And then she has a sword to bring down the shit swiftly. I keep trying to explain to you her role and why I am so connected to it, why it means so much to me. Because if more people lived by what she stood for, then we would have more to balance ourselves on. We need to make sure that the laws are written. We got good law. There's such a thing as we got law, but a real attorney will tell you there is good law. And that's what we're missing. We're missing good law. We got people with good intentions writing laws that once they put them on the books, they are not in alignment with other things, with other laws that are further down the book. There needs to be more due diligence so things connect, so you don't have things out of sight. That's called shepherdizing. They don't shepherdize these laws when they put them into place to make sure that they align. So it's a lot of things that are missing, but it's understood what's missing. That scares some. They don't want to hold Black folks accountable. No, you got to hold all folks accountable when we're talking about justice. That's what I'm saying. That's what needs to be blind. And we understand that the strikes are against us and that it is working against the system built against us. But there comes a time when we have to do something about it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that for this morning. Take them as you may. I'm glad to see I was able to go live. I got a copyright that I got to figure out. And that's about it. Anyway, you guys enjoy your Monday. I'm going to try to make the best out of mine. Yes, they found justice. You're right. See how they found justice for Junior? They went right in there and they went right to it. And there was even though there was a community who's scared, they have no problem telling on each other when the shit hit the fan. Because at the end of the day, they all want to live in peace. That's what we're missing in our community. This is Mo, and I've got to go.